So in today's podcast, we have on Eric Siddiqi, who is a tournament kayak angler, a professional tournament kayak angler, which we will get into throughout the podcast. But this man has fished all over the place, anywhere from local club derbies to national derbies. Probably one of if not, I would probably claim him as the most successful tournament angler when it comes to kayak bass fishing, to the point where he's been invited to world championships, different things along those lines that we will talk to him about here in a second. But I'm super excited to have Eric on. Hope you guys are too. Let's get into today's episode. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, we are recording. Eric Siddiqi, what is going on, my man?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I feel like I'm talking to two of you right now.
Right.
The one in the back's a little bit cooler than you, I gotta say.
Yeah, he is. Pretty cool dude.
Cool, but are you surviving pretty well through all this madness going on?
Yeah, trying. I've just been super lazy, so it's kind of like falling into my wheelhouse. Really, I like being lazy. So,
does that translate to you on the water?
Yeah, I'm pretty laid back and slow, methodical fisherman. So
It's been working for you. You got to this point, right? So
yeah.
cool. For people that might not know you, I'm sure if anybody who is a kayak angler listening to this knows who you are, but for our boater guys and people who might live under a rock, who are you? What's your background a little bit, and then tell us a little bit, how you got into fishing. What's that first story like, and who kind of embraced you to the whole fishing world?
Yeah, I'm Eric Siddiqi. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I started fishing when I was a kid. My mom's family is from Corinth, Mississippi, and a lot of my uncles had ponds and stuff. So I'd go down there growing up in the summers and stuff, and I'd just go pond to pond. And then as I got a little older, I talked my mom into start dropping me off at Pickwick Lake with some barbecue and my fishing gear, and kind of taught myself to bass fish that way. Just walk around those floating docks everywhere and the banks and back of pockets of creeks and everything. And just teach myself to bass fish. Kind of how it happened.
That's pretty sweet. Back in the day when you wouldn't get kicked out of the docks when you were walking around now.
Right. Yeah.
Seems like every sort of structure you can fish from land now, it's all private and you're getting yelled at and kicked off of. At least in my experience of trying to fish from the bank, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of great places to fish in Cincinnati anyways, so some of the better places are actually private. So I go fish. I mean, growing up, I'd go fish those areas anytime I could. So I've been kicked out of my fair share of places even before all this happened.
So when did you move more up north then? From you said you were originally Mississippi, right?
No, my mom's family's from there, so we'd go down there
Okay.
all the time growing up. But yeah,
So you fish down there when you're visiting, is what you're saying?
right. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
So when that
loved it down there. I used to dream about. I'd dream about being down there fishing. I'd wake up like, still in Cincinnati. This sucks.
still in Ohio.
Fishing is not as good as it is down there.
Yeah. So what's the closest body of water to you then? That's worth fishing in your mind.
I would say probably Cedar Creek is one of my favorite ones. It's about 2 hours from here. Um, Brookville is not bad. It's decent smallmouth fishing, better walleye fishing.
Okay.
St. Clair is only about 5 hours for me.
So, only.
Yeah. I mean, compared to a lot of places I go, that's not bad.
I hear you. Yeah. I tell a lot of people that come on, I'm a little spoiled up here in the middle of the Finger Lakes in New York. Pretty much 30 minutes each way. There's some, 2 or 3 bodies of water that we can go hit, so it's kind of nice.
Right.
But
yeah.
So in that timeline from when you kind of started fishing around, when you'd visit down to Mississippi and things how you explained to now, when did you kind of discover kayak fishing?
Man, it was probably about 6-7 years ago. I started watching Chad Hoover, his show on Fishing Network, and just thought, man, I could do that. And then eventually ended up getting a kayak for Christmas from my girlfriend at the time, and she got me the wrong one, so I ended up taking that back and getting a sit on top kayak. And
Nice.
yeah. so
That's funny.
so yeah, just started fishing like that. And I would say, like, when I started kayak fishing, once it warmed up, 2 months in, I had a day where I caught like 43 pounds here on a lake in Cincinnati and broke my PB 3 times. So that was kind of it for me. I mean, I knew if I could get on the water somehow that I could, you know, do a lot better. I'd just bank fish my whole life. So, uh, yeah, just kind of went from there.
43 pounds in Ohio?
Yeah, yeah. I got a 8.7, an 11.4, and a 12.65.
Is this a public body of water?
It's not anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's
Whew.
owned
Jeez,
by a
man.
marine company now. I'm hoping they don't destroy it.
Good grief.
Yeah,
That is nuts. An
it's
11 pounder in the
well,
north?
yeah, I know. Yeah, I probably have the best day anyone's ever had in Ohio.
Yeah, I would say so. I say you probably had the best day, largemouth fishing than
Yeah,
anybody in the Northeast has ever had.
right,
There's very rarely they even drop dirty 30s. Very
right.
rare. Man,
Hmm.
that's nuts. Oh my.
Yep,
Do
and
you
it freezes.
do you consider Ohio Northeast?
Uh, I don't know what it is. If I go north, they call me a hillbill. If I go south, they call me a Yankee. So I don't know.
So you're stuck in that
Yeah, right.
horrible middle. Okay. See, in my mind, I feel like Ohio and then pretty much everywhere up is Northeast. That's how my mind works. I don't know why. Maybe it's because
Yeah,
I traveled to Columbus all the time as a kid, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's
yeah,
just me. Just because like you have that Erie affiliation, so it's like I view it as Northeast, but
right.
maybe that's just me.
Yeah, the
But
best thing about Cincinnati is, like, as a tournament fisherman, it's easy to travel, to tournaments. You're not too far from anything. Florida's probably the furthest. You might get 16, 18 hours or something, go down there. But other than that, it's not too bad. It helps me travel all over.
yeah,
So,
kind of be somewhat in a central location. Makes sense.
right.
So did you get into tournament fishing once you got a kayak, or did you kind of participate in those bank tournaments every now and then?
Yeah, once I got a kayak and started doing well, I looked up, started fishing some online tournaments. There was actually a team tournament. Was my first tournament. It was a Ohio club that doesn't exist anymore. They had a night tournament on Kaiser Lake, and went and fished out with my buddy, and pretty much chased my buddy around the lake all night because we had to stay 20 feet apart, and he just wanted to keep going. So I didn't enjoy that too much, but yeah, the first KBF online event was starting that month, and a lot of the guys asked my buddy when we were staying outside camping there. They're like, "Oh, are you fishing this tournament?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Why not?" And he's like, "Because Siddiqui's gonna win it anyways." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Well, that's weird. And then I won like every tournament the next 6 months or something. It was
He
pretty
wasn't
funny.
lying.
Yeah.
That is funny. Dude, if you could say, I don't know if you actually have like an exact number, but how many tournaments do you think that you've won since you started?
I don't know, just live tournaments, maybe
Sure.
10. Probably the
Okay.
last 2 or 3 years, I won about 10. I'd say somewhere around there.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard to win, man. Not easy.
Yeah. I think like if you go like to like you say like the Elite Series or something like that, to even say 5 over 2 to 3 years is incredible.
Right.
So like 10 is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
Because like you get more numbers in these tournaments than you do in like a boat tournament.
Mhm.
There's more guys fishing them than you would on say like that pro level. So
Right.
it's your chances to being beat out are way higher. So
Right.
it's
It's
what
hard. You
was
have to do everything right, make all the right decisions, and can't make any mistakes. And even then, you might still get beat by somebody who's just better that day.
Yeah,
So
and that's what's cool about fishing, though, is like you don't have to be the best angler to win. You just need to make the best decisions on that given day,
right.
which is super interesting. But what was your first tournament like that was massive? Like how kayak fishing is known for that 100+ numbers of entries. What was like your first tournament where you're like, whoa?
Well, my first tournament was on Toledo Bend. That year when they started the onlines, I decided when I started winning those, I decided to look up and see if there was any live events, and Toledo was the last one that KBF had. So I ended up driving down there and fishing that, and at the time had an ascend, and ended up having a hurricane come through, and I had to pull that thing off the water like 5-6 times that day, take everything off it, flip it over, and drain it because it was raining so hard. And
Oh,
I don't know how they are now, but back then those scupper holes did not drain water, so it was going straight into the hatch. Even though I had everything resealed, nothing helped. I was just trying to keep from sinking all day. If I knew what I knew now, I probably would just let it sink, because whoever likes to will hook you up with a kayak if your if your kayak sinks in the tournament.
wait,
But
he gets a new kayak if your kayak sinks?
I mean, he'll help you out. He has that ability. So if your kayak goes down in a tournament, I know a few guys. He's just got him a new kayak. So
That's ridiculous. That's nuts.
yeah.
Dang. Okay.
But
How'd you end
that
up?
tournament, I think I was somewhere around fifth. I don't really remember, but I I ended up qualifying for the national championship there, the first one. So that was in March of next year, and that was, Kentucky Lake, and
Mm,
that was when it really all, hit home. There was a ton of people there, a ton of fishermen, and that was a bit overwhelming. I mean, when
I
I got on the
bet.
water in practice, I I was catching them pretty good, but it's just a huge lake, and I was really not very experienced. So it was tough when that cold front came through. I was struggling. I think I ended up getting a limit of real small ones, but
Mm.
yeah,
Didn't the guy who won it, wasn't he like in a creek? He was like some small creek that was warmer than like pretty much the rest of the limit. Like your boundaries were. Like he won it. I think he won far back in a creek. I could be wrong.
yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. I know a lot of the guys that have, or a few of the guys that have won on Kentucky that time of year actually go to Barkley. So
Hmm.
some
Interesting.
some I didn't know. The
Well,
last time we had the national championship on Kentucky, I was crushing them, and then they dropped the water like 10 feet, and everything I was catching them on was out of the water. That wasn't too much fun either. But
I feel like falling water is probably the hardest condition to catch them in.
yeah, it is. They'll just pull out and suspend, and they're really hard to catch like that.
The way I look at it is like us, like people on a street, and like there's like buildings falling, and you're running away from it, and that's pretty much what the fish are doing.
Hmm.
So they're just going frantically everywhere. So there's really no pattern you can possibly get on,
Right.
unless you already have a deep bite on where they know they'll be fine there. Which in that point is probably like your best bet is finding a deep spot because you're going to reload faster with the water falling.
Yeah, I've
But,
gotten a lot more comfortable with deep water fishing, which, since I bank fished my whole life, I wasn't able to do. So it's something I worked really hard the first couple of years to learn, because, first couple of years I got beat by guys that were fishing deep on me, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So
mhm.
I made the decision I was going to learn it, and I, spent a lot of time, especially in Kentucky, learning how to, read my graph and what to look for, and
Yep.
everything else. It just kind of all once you get it, you get it, and just kind of click for me. And now when I go to tournaments, if it's a shallow water bite, people say to me, "Oh, well, it's gonna be tough for you. It's shallow water." I'm like, that's what I've done my whole life. People think I'm a deep water fisherman now because I've done so well with it, but I've
Yeah.
been doing it that long.
Yeah. I mean, that's your roots is fishing shallow. So
Right, right.
that makes
It's just
sense.
a
Yeah.
lot of time with water, a lot of studying, and if you decide, put your mind to something.
Yeah. It's cool. I like fishing offshore just because, like, essentially you're fishing blind, but at the same time, like, you're using your electronics to help you not just locate fish, but locate areas where you should be trying to hone in on, which it takes a whole lot more strategy than just finding a laydown and casting to it.
Right.
Which is the part I love about offshore fishing because it takes a lot more strategy, a little bit more intuition into it to kind of effectively put together fish. And naturally, if you can get on them, you can get on them. I don't want to say better, but like especially in the summer months, you can fish way better offshore than you will ever do up shallow.
Right.
But
right. It's a lot of fun once you figure it out.
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how much I really liked it because I really just wanted to do it to just be able to do it so I wouldn't get beat in tournaments and stuff. But I love it when you
Oh
get
yeah.
on them, you could just hammer them, just sit on the spot, just one after the other. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
and
usually catch a big one, they're all big, so you're just it's fun.
because that offshore fishing, there's a higher percentage for fish to never have seen pressure before.
Right.
Obviously every fish is gonna have like your typical boat pressure where it's just boats driving over them. But like when it comes to fishing pressure, you have a way better percentage of running into fish that I've never seen a bait.
Right.
Whereas up shallow, it's a lot easier for them to not have that. So
Right.
it's which is kind of interesting because I think it was I was talking to Bass Talk Live. I think made the notion of there's that saying that I just said how offshore there's a higher percentage, but now with so many guys having these electronics and being able to fish offshore, that offshore fishing is becoming so pressured. And I think it was like a point. I think it was like John Cox was saying how it's like shallow water fishing slowly becoming better because so many guys are moving offshore, which
Yeah,
is kind
exactly.
of interesting to think about.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
just
fished a
imagine them
tournament last
flopping.
year. What's that?
I said, just imagine them flopping where that caliber of fish offshore moves up shallow, and so they flip flops. You have giants all over the place shallow.
Right.
I mean, nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I fished a tournament last year on a lake called Newton Lake in Illinois. It was a Crossroads Bass Classic,
Okay.
and it was like top 5 guys from 10 different tournament series here up north. And so it was 50 guys and had a kind of a championship. And my first night there, I got there uh, Thursday night and decided to go out and fish for a little bit. And I put up over 100 inches in like an hour and a half up shallow. And then I went out the next day and I was like, and I had planned on looking deep. It's not a very big lake and it's a power plant lake. So it has a warm side and a cold side. So I went up and wanted to go look at some stuff. And I came over a old roadbed and a bridge that wasn't on any of my maps, and it had fish on it. And I caught some good ones off it that day in practice. And I decided, even though I caught big ones up shallow, I figured everybody would be going shallow anyway, so I'd have a better chance of just being able to sit on that spot and catch them for 2 days. And so that's what I did, and I ended up winning the tournament on that spot. But
Nice.
yeah, I had a lot of those. There was a big local tournament on Sunday, and I was expecting, there to have some company out there. But really, when I looked up, I saw 2 boats on one side fishing the bank, 2 boats on the other side fishing the bank. But at one point, I look up, and none of them are fishing. They're all just standing there watching me, trying to figure out what I'm doing. So that was pretty
It's got to
cool.
be a weird feeling.
Yeah,
You see that
absolutely.
happen on like when you watch the lives for like FLW, bass, all that. You see people just watching guys fishing, and now it's like you look up and you're like, "This looks familiar." Now they're doing this to me. That's got to be a
Yeah,
very odd feeling.
yeah. I think a lot of guys are just intimidated by fishing deep, but
Yeah, especially as kayak anglers, because when you think of kayak bass fishing, you don't tend to think of offshore much.
mm-hmm.
You think, that's something you're going to use in shallow water, and that's it. At least there's a lot of guys, especially on the boat side, that think, I don't fish shallow enough. Why would I get a kayak or stuff like that? And it's like, you don't need, you know, that it doesn't coincide with fishing shallow, which is
Yeah,
kind of interesting. So it's especially when guys will, some boats, some older guys too, they come by you and you're fishing offshore in a kayak. They're like, why don't you just get a boat? And it's like, because I don't need to pay 80 grand
right, right.
to
Still catch fish.
fish a fish. Exactly.
Right. I
So
get in
it's.
areas you can't, and I get in all the areas you can.
Do you find that like on tournaments, whether it's a day one or day two, do guys follow you around?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had it happen a few times.
Do you have any like crazy stories of
Uh,
guys that might be getting a little too close?
I do.
Oh, any word sharing.
Oh man. Well, traditionally I do pretty well on St. Clair, so I've had some people try to follow me around out there. One day I was practicing with a friend and sitting there fishing a spot, and somebody came up and kind of took over the spot. And I moved off to another spot as I wanted to go look at anyways, and I headed over there, and they followed me there. And the whole time, the person I was fishing with was watching this, and they're just cracking up. So they then I head out to another spot wanted to look at. That was another half mile away. So I go head over there and start checking that spot out. And I turn around, and there's the guys right there behind me. So I'm like, okay, and I'm like down in St. Clair, down by the river on the south end. And so I decide I'm just gonna float down, just see how far he'll follow me. And I started throwing a frog in the middle of the river just to see if I can get him to do it. And yeah, I got a call from my friend, and
That's
they're
hilarious.
it
Do you
was
ever
pretty
say
funny.
anything to him, or do you just kind of just laugh it off?
I just laughed it off.
Yeah, 'cause
It's
there's a
one
lot
of
of guys that would probably turn around and then start, probably
yeah,
yelling at some
right.
obscenities.
Yeah, it was one of the more recognizable guys in the sport. I try not to get too upset over anything, and where it gets around if you go off on somebody at a ramp or on the water or something like that. And I'm pretty laid back, like I said, anyways. So I figure, I mean, if they catch my fish, more power to them.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you still got to catch them. So
Right.
yeah, it is one of those things. But that's got to be still just, I mean, a tad bit annoying
Yeah.
because, like,
Yeah.
in my mind, I guess it depends on the body of water, but like, bait selection can be a little bit easier to figure out, or like, I guess I don't have an issue sharing what I'm catching them on, but like some spots you put hours and hours on and I guess it can go both ways, but you put hours of work into finding, and figuring them out and figuring out what they are.
Right.
And for somebody just to kind of follow you and then reaping the rewards that you just worked for, it's kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
is annoying. But you can
Yeah.
probably say the same thing. You can just stumble in an area and it's pretty easy. Whereas, finding the perfect bait selection can be pretty hard. But I guess it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
But both are
Right.
probably pretty annoying for people just
Right.
to,
And I
yeah.
always try to be as respectful as I can, people. But sometimes it's hard. And one thing you'll notice is a lot of the top guys will end up in the same areas. So we just kind of gotta figure out a way to share it the best we can.
Yeah. And that's for good reason though, because they
Hmm.
know what they're doing. Yeah.
Right.
So it makes sense. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you never had like a KVD Toledo Bend where you're constantly telling people they got to get back and looks like an army of people watching you.
A couple times actually I've had there was a tournament on Kentucky Lake. It was can't remember that. I think it was a Costa event after we had fished one and I was on them. I was crushing them. So I stayed for a few days and was fishing them, and I guess a lot of those guys were struggling. So I had a big circle of those guys around me watching me, trying to figure out what I was doing. And I actually had
It's
one actually had the balls come up to me and he was like, "Man, you are crushing them out here. What are you doing?" He's like, "Is that a Carolina rig?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I've been out here all week and I haven't caught anything." And then I pull up and see you out here putting on a clinic. I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it took me, some time to figure it out, but so we ended up having good conversations. We're actually good buddies now, but
good.
yeah, yeah. It, so
It's always
we're
good when guys take
they
the
all
good route
struggle
about
too.
it.
We're all
Yeah,
just fishermen. We're all gonna struggle.
everybody. Yeah, I mean, unless you're Brian Thrift, that's probably the only guy I know that can catch him absolutely everywhere. But like
Right.
everybody's gonna struggle at one point. You have your highs, you have your lows.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I wanted to ask you too is because I mean I saw a little bit on your personal page of going to the Worlds and everything, but beyond that, I didn't see much of what the experience is like at Hobie Worlds. So
Yeah.
like obviously, I'm sure you've been asked this question so many times, but I guess like in a short version, what was it like to be not only like to be invited, but like to actually go there and fish and be a part of that?
Oh man, it was an amazing experience. Seeing guys from all over the world, the same passion that you have, and just camaraderie and everything, and tons of free swag is cool too that they hook you up with, and they do the event really well. So it's it's really special.
Nice.
It's something I always wanted to qualify for, and I came pretty close the year before I qualified on St. Clair. I at the Border City Classic where I qualified, it was top placing American, top placing Canadian, and so that was I guess 4 years ago. An American was first. I was American. I was second, and the Canadian was third. So first and third went to Worlds in Sweden. And I was like, oh man, that was my chance. And then the next year I ended up winning it, and then I won it the next year again. So, and I'll be getting to go to Sweden this year. As long as it still happens. So it all worked out pretty well. And while I would have been gone in Sweden, I ended up winning a tournament, a KBF tournament on La Crosse, Wisconsin, in Mississippi River, and
Nice.
got to do a show with Chad and everything. So it all worked out.
Yeah. So when is the one in Sweden supposed to be?
It's supposed to be in August.
August, okay. You gotta, I mean, knock on wood. Yeah. I hope you get to go to it. But so you qualified this through bass tournaments. Do you end up going to fish for bass at Worlds, or is it a whole different species?
Last year it was yellowtail Australian brim, and we were fishing some like tidal stuff. And it was different. It wasn't anything I was used to. I was pretty confident I was going to still be able to catch them, but we spent a lot of time, talking and hanging out, and not a lot of time practicing. They gave us. We probably had a total. We had 2 days. Probably had a total of maybe by the time you got somewhere about 3 hours each day to practice for these fish, and you weren't allowed to fish for them before that. So I hadn't really figured them out. I actually didn't catch one of the fish until the first day of the tournament. I was catching some other fish called a flathead, which is some kind of it kind of looks like a catfish, I guess you could say, but it's got some spines in the back that are poisonous, and if you get stuck by them, you're supposed to rub where you got stuck on the belly, and there's some slime that kind of counteracts that poison and stuff. But supposedly they taste really good. But that's the only thing I was able to catch. I kept catching those things.
So if you get stung in the back by him, you got to flip the fish over and rub them where you got.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I actually ate one while I was down there too at a restaurant. So they're pretty good. But so I didn't know what I was doing, and come to find out, really, I was fishing too much. Once I started dead sticking and stuff like that, and just sitting there waiting for them to come, once you get in the right area, they'll just come pick up. Just take a 1/64th weight on a little tiny hook, and just like a gulp type bait that's shaped like a little shrimp, basically, and just cast it out and let it sit. If you move too much, they won't have anything to do with it. They just want something sitting. So I was just fishing too much.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. It was different than anything I've ever done before. But,
so you could have just gone cast out line and had a cooler full of beer and kick back, relax, and
that's it. That's what I did the last day. I was kind of out of it anyway, so I was fishing around these trawlers, and they come in. They have all these big prawns and bugs, they call them, which is kind of like a shrimp or like a crab lobster mix type of thing. And I've got a picture of one on my Instagram. But you just twist the tail off and peel it back, and it tastes like lobster, crab, kind of like a little sweeter. It was really good. But they cook them in seawater, the prawns and the bugs in seawater on the way back in after they catch them. And then people will stand there waiting to get some fresh seafood. So I just bought them straight off the boat, sit up there, bought them, and then I just kicked back and eat seafood while I was fishing. Just cast my line out, let it sit, and just Tim Percy had a rough tournament too. So me and him were just kicking back, eating, having a good time.
That's awesome. That is so cool. So how many people can compete in this?
I think there's about 45 people invited around the world.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, is
Nice. So what is the species going to be that if you do go to Sweden, what would you be? Do you know what you're fishing for?
well. I know. I'm sure it'll be pike. The last time they were in Sweden, it was pike and perch. So I don't know
Okay.
if they're doing the same thing or if they're just going for pike or what exactly we're doing yet. But
Hmm.
yeah, we were all kind of hoping for some peacock bass in Brazil, but I think all this stuff has kind of made that fall through
Yeah.
and stuff. So they decided to go with somewhere they'd been before, and it's kind of a small town area, so
Makes
should be good.
sense. Brazil and Piat. That would be nuts. That would be
Yeah,
so cool to watch too.
yeah.
Oh
Maybe I get
man.
lucky and qualify again, and then we get that done next year.
There you go. Yeah. So is it like a Hobie committee that kind of selects these areas, like the
Yeah,
locations, or do anglers get hmm,
I mean, when I was in Worlds, I talked to some of the guys and had mentioned some things that might be cool. I also thought Japan would be cool because they have some good bass fishing, and that's where a lot of the really cool baits and lures come from. So I thought I might be able to even get a head start on some of the things I haven't made it over here yet because a lot of the
yeah.
stuff we do here kind of trickles down from them. So I figured I'd
You're just
probably
trying to make worlds so that you can get a better head start for the next season. That's what you're trying
right.
to see.
Figured I'd
That's how
bring
you know you got a
there,
dedicated angler.
case full of lures and just come back with whatever I'm wearing.
That's a Lake Biwa tournament would be nuts.
Right.
That would be
Yeah.
just to see what size caliber fish you can pull out of there.
Yeah. It'd be cool. I think that'd be fun.
Unreal. So virus willing. Obviously, Sweden aside. What tournaments are you looking forward to for 2020?
Um, well, I always look forward to St. Clair, um, Kentucky Lake, the Hobie on Kentucky Lake. They moved it back to like prime time ledge fishing, and hopefully the carp haven't messed it up too much. So you know, last year I didn't really get on a good ledge bite a couple times that I went there. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it's not the carp messing everything up, and it was just not me not being able to get on them good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think prime time, ledge time, moving it back to that, I think that could be a really good tournament. So
Okay.
that's a good one. Um, they canceled Table Rock, but I always love going there. That's a fun lake to fish. And you go after, spot, smallmouth, largemouth. I actually won it on smallmouth my first time fishing tournament there. So that's a really cool lake. Hopefully they can reschedule that one. And Pickwick's another one they canceled. And
Yeah.
that I grew up fishing that lake, so I'm hoping they reschedule that one also.
I remember. I remember you talking about that, saying, can't remember what joke you made about saying how you had to head home or something like that.
All
But
right. Yeah, I was all
yeah,
packed up, ready to go, and then they canceled it. I had actually messaged Shad the day before. I was like, "This still on?" He's like, "As of right now." And then I was all packed up and ready to go, and then they called it. So I was like, all right, well, I'll have some fun with
you
it.
close the door of your truck to leave, and it's sorry, no tournament.
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least you can leave your stuff in there and wait for the next tournament.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I ended up setting up that tournament on Cedar Creek with Mike Fink and Todd Patrick, and we figured we could probably get a tournament in and be safe with it and show that we can have tournaments still, and be safe. And so we did that. It all worked out. Everybody came through, handed Todd their money in the morning, and um, we went out and fished all day. And then we kept the leaderboard on all day, so people who were in the uh, top three or whatever could, that made money in big bass can just come get their money. So we all just came, just kept our distance, and stood in a circle. And Todd called out the winners, and they came up and got their money and headed out. So it all worked out well,
Yeah.
and I won it. So
Well, that's
I'm
always a
happy.
plus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Always a plus.
yeah. So hopefully
Yeah.
we could do some more.
Yeah.
If they keep calling tournaments, I might start a Cabin Fever series.
Are you in Jackson Orr's tournament right now? His online tournament?
Oh yeah, I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm headed out to Cayuga for the weekend. I'm gonna go camp in the truck and go out there and try to put up 100 inches for his thing. I've been texting him back and forth trying to tease him, telling him to beat his butt, but
He messaged me before
it,
that that I
yeah, it was like
said you're
April
gonna win
1st, and I
this one.
look at yeah, people already had like 80 something inches already in like the morning of the first time. I said, I'm like, all right, I don't know if I'm gonna try that hard in this one. I was joking with Jackson saying I'm gonna go put up 5 different species for my 5 fish. I'm gonna put up 5 like a perch and a pike, and then different different bass on there.
Yeah, yeah,
Just kind of
right.
put some fun into it. Yeah,
Yeah,
people see like 130 inches because I have all northerns.
yeah, right. And I saw Ike's got a online tournament also, so that'll be interesting.
I did see that. I haven't looked too much into it. And is it kind of available for everybody, or how's it work?
Yeah, like it. I mean, I think you could sign up anytime. It looked like it was every week the numbers reset, so it's like 4 weeks, but you only pay once. So at the beginning of the month is like $20. So seems like it'd be fun, and it's all for charity. So seems like a cool tournament too.
Is that because he doesn't? Are they still having like his annual tournament, or is that in place of it?
I don't know. I think this is just something separate, honestly.
Okay.
But those guys aren't. They got all their stuff canceled too. So
Yeah.
and the same as us. We just want to go fishing.
I hope he can still have his annual tournament where a bunch of kids come and random people kind of get to like fish with pros, and I don't know if you've ever seen that one. Trying to think. Trying to remember. I think they have a kayak series now because I was listening to a KBN podcast and they were talking about like Ryan Lambert and I think Christine Fisher was talking about how they were going to be fishing it, something along the lines of that because they had Ike on and saying that they were. Can't remember the specifics, but one question I had for you is since you got into these tournaments, is there one single tournament that kind of like when you think back on your career, that kind of stands out as like something you like to reflect on the most?
Man, I don't know. Uh, I I learned something from every tournament win that I had. It was I would say Border City Classic when I won that one after coming second the year before. That was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet. I was pretty excited about that one. That was I mean I was my first time fishing in Canada, so I mean you were not even allowed on the water before the tournament.
Huh.
So I just went out there sight unseen, started marking some fish and started fishing for them
And
and
one. Yeah.
did well. And I was good buddies with Tim Percy. It was pretty funny. I got off the water, and I take my time and whatever. So I'm loading up, and Tim comes over to me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, nothing, just loading up. And he's like, "You need to get to the check-in." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going. I'm just loading up." He's like, "No, I'll watch your stuff. You need to go check in." And I was like, "What do you know?" And he was like, "I'm sworn to secrecy. Just go check in." And I was like, "That's when I actually realized."
Oh crap!
Yeah. So I actually had no idea before that. So that was pretty
That's
cool.
awesome. Are you the kind of angler that doesn't check the leaderboard during the day?
Sometimes I do. It depends on how the bite is and stuff. Usually, if it's a slow bite, sometimes I'll look at it. A lot of times I don't really like to, but especially if I'm catching good though too, I like to kind of see where I am. I usually don't look until I at least have a limit and kind of decide what I'm gonna need to catch to win.
Yeah, I guess there can be some strategy to checking it because like you want to know if you need to make a change or something like that. But like
Right.
my mind, if I never during tournaments check Tourney X at all, just because like it goes right to my head, especially like if you're doing well right off the bat and you're like, yeah, I'm in first, then it's like you're just freaking out the rest of the day, depending on the angler you are. Knowing me, like I would bug out the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And it almost went that way for me for one tournament at Cayuga Lake. I think it was 2, 3 summers ago, where I caught my limit in the first half hour, and it was all 19s. And so my smallest was a 19, and I could have just stopped fishing at that point in the 30 minutes and just could have just left. I
Yeah.
won off those 3 fish. But I caught probably 40 more fish that day. But that whole time after I checked the leaderboard, I was freaking out. That I was just like, I wasn't catching the right ones. And when they turned that shut off there, I was like sitting there like, that was like the hardest I've gone in the last hour of a tournament because I thought somebody was going to catch me. And I was just, it was one of those things. It was like, after I got there, I realized I won. And I'm sitting there, I'm driving home like, I am never checking that app during a tournament again.
Right.
Just because
That's
the mental breakdown it gives me.
Yeah, that's kind of how my table rock tournament went. I went the first day. I had 2 days of practice. Went the first day. Went looking for spotted bass, and ended up finding a big school of them that had some shad pushed up on this flat, just crushing them, and they were hitting everything I was throwing. But it was toward the end of the day, and I was like, oh, I can't count on that happening for the tournament. So I ended up going up the James River looking for some largemouth because I'd heard if you could find them, they're big. So I went up there and I got nothing but little largemouth. So I had a few hours left, and I decided to go check out the dam, see if I could find some smallmouth. So I went there and I ended up hooking into one good smallmouth, and it came off. But it was the biggest fish I'd seen the whole time. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna pick the best point I could find around the dam and just show up there in the morning. And so I, didn't have too much confidence and left out that morning, headed for the spot, and this guy cruised right. The only other guy that launched at the ramp cruised right over top of the point I was planning on fishing, and just kept on going up shallow. And I was like, oh, I guess there ain't anything there. And I went up, pulled up on top of it, and I was like, what was this guy looking for? It was just stacked. There was fish all over it. So I backed up, turned around, and as soon as the tournament started catching them, just one after the other, smallmouth. A buddy of mine who fished Table Rock a lot said that it would take 88 inches to win. I think I had like 89 inches in the first hour and a half. And but the bite slowed down after that. Like after I hammered on him for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, that was it. And so the rest of the day I was stuck. I looked at the leaderboard more than I fished the rest of the day, just watching people catch up to me. And
refreshing, like, please don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Got within 5 or 6 inches of me, but that was it. So, but I was pretty worried that whole day watching because I knew it was gonna be hard to upgrade from there. But
yeah, each swipe down on your phone, you're like crap. Like you're sweating as you refresh your phone. That's funny. So if you had a decision between the 3 species to chase, because let's say you'd caught your fair share of each 3 species of bass, if you can only choose one to go after or one that you're more comfortable in chasing, which species would you like to go after?
I have the most experience with largemouth, honestly, but if smallmouth have been good to me, so in tournaments especially. So in a tournament situation, if I think I could win with smallmouth, I'm gonna go catch them.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I've
fun to catch also. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, they just seem to fight so much harder than. I mean, I've never caught a spotted bass, so I can't put my claim on that. But between that and largemouth, obviously. But as a Northeasterner, I have a love for smallmouth.
Yeah.
As any other Northeasterner does.
I think pound for pound, spots fight the hardest.
Really?
I really do. But I was fishing a Coosa River event, and I was heading back, and I was like, I checked the weather around Pickwick, and it was good. So I was like, I'm going to go to Pickwick after this. So I started heading there, and then I see on the map this lake, and I look at it, and it's Lewis Smith Lake in Alabama. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. I've always wanted to fish there. I'm going to stop there and fish. And I just stopped, pulled up at a ramp, went out, and crushed just giant spots all day long, and it was a blast. It's a beautiful lake. I had a lot of fun, and those things fight. I was pretty surprised at how those things fight. They fight hard.
I've never caught one, but I need to make it my mission. When I was out at the Classic, I wanted to get out and go fish for spots, but it was a lot busier of a weekend than I had anticipated. So unfortunately, and the weather wasn't very, very good for, they got a lot of rain, so it was kind of tough, especially because I didn't have any sort of vehicle of getting out on the water besides the bank. And from what I've learned, I should say read and was told that catching spots from the bank is not very easy to do. So
yeah, Two of mine came at the Bassmaster tournament on Logan Martin. My two biggest were spots that came in the morning, like right out in front of this culvert, pretty shallow. But then I fell out on with a largemouth. Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, I would have sworn that second one was like 18 3/4, I think, and I would have sworn it was a catfish when it hit. It was just, they just fight hard, man.
Huh.
Usually when you have a catfish, you know
it. Yeah. But we don't get many catfish up here in New York. If we do, it's bullhead. But you really don't run into them that much. And if you do, it just feels like you know when you get leaves on your treble hooks, and you're pulling up and it's that weird feeling. Yeah, that's what it feels like with a bullhead. Then you see a catfish coming up and just twirling around slowly. They're not very fun whatsoever. But yeah, it's weird. But so we're gonna wrap up in a second here. I have two questions that I like to ask people before we close out. But before we do, is there any so where can people find you first and foremost on social media so they can follow along? And is there any shout outs you want to give?
You can just look me up, Eric Siddiqi on YouTube, and then my Instagram is Siddiqi_fishing on Instagram.
Cool. And everything will be linked down below for you too, so anybody listening, watching can go follow. Cool. So any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Yeah, sponsors. I just joined Native at the last tournament. Announced it on the Bassmaster stage. So that was pretty cool. So I'm working on getting my new Native kayak all together and everything. So I have to shout out to them and Yak Attack. And actually, I was working on my black pack that they sent me. Got a bunch of rod holders and everything. Gonna get that thing set up. And Fishing Online, Calico's Fishing, Torquedo, Lowrance, Angler, Dakota Lithium, VL Spilly Construction, Real Snot, Yak Power, Kirko Paddles, and most recently I just joined Z-Man.
Z-Man, okay. What's your favorite bait?
Well, besides the jackhammer?
Well, okay, sorry, soft plastic. What's your favorite soft plastic from Z-Man?
Soft plastic. Oh, man. I mean, you can't go wrong with the original TRD. That little thing works.
I'm a big fan of the diesel minnows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and recently it's the Slim Swims have been pretty hot up here too. Throwing on like an 1/8 ounce head.
Yeah.
So yeah, big fan of the tails.
It's pretty good too.
Yeah.
I haven't yet tried that yet.
I haven't. It's weird. I've used them, but I haven't had as much luck on those as like my bites just haven't been as consistent as when I use like a diesel, just that paddle tail style. Yeah. I don't know if there's a certain condition, and you may know way better than I do, of when you'd throw a diesel or a paddle tail over, your switchblades. Is there a certain condition where you kind of would switch it up?
I don't know. I just try to listen to the fish. I don't really. I don't know. I mean, like I said, that TRD is awesome. That thing works everywhere, and it's just a real subtle bait, and just one of those things. For some reason, those bass just love that kind of straight worm, like a Senko. Like, yeah, why does that work? I don't know, but they love it for some reason. So it's kind of the same thing with that little, TRD on a Ned rig or whatever. Yeah. I actually caught a smallmouth on St. Clair that had a TRD down its throat that somebody was using on a drop shot, and I hadn't tried that out, so I might give that a shot too.
Interesting. I feel like out there though, like you were mentioning earlier, how fish have never seen a bait before. I feel like out in that lake, there's a good chance that there's some fish that have never seen a bait before. I'm trying to picture a TRD on a drop shot. It just it looks so weird to me.
Yeah, it was weird. It was hooked right in the middle, like a wacky rig. I don't know. It was strange, but
it is what it is. That's interesting. Yeah. Cool. Well, I got these last two questions for you, and then I won't take up much more of your time. We're already going on almost 50 minutes here. So, first question. If you could sit down and have dinner with any three people, whether that's past or present, who would you invite and why? And they don't have to be fishing related.
Oh, man.
Just, to pick their brain.
they'd probably all be fishermen, I would say.
Okay, you can get 3 fishermen.
Probably KVD for sure.
Okay.
For obvious reasons, he's the best tournament fisherman of all time. So
no explanation needed. Yeah.
and he definitely fishes a lot different than I do. I'm not really a power fisherman, so I figure I could definitely learn something from him.
Okay.
Then probably Bill Dance, because I grew up watching him, and he's the man. And man, maybe I've actually got to hang out with some of the guys that would be on this list, so that's been pretty cool. But I'd probably say Jimmy Houston. He seems like a fun guy.
Okay. He seems wild.
Yeah, right. Right. I was actually I was at I think it was a Forest Wood Cup a few years ago, and it was Jimmy Houston came on stage. It was some, I think it was like his 50th anniversary or something, in fishing or something like that. And they had a bunch of like bowl cut like blonde wigs under all the seats, so everybody threw it on. And he came out and saw everybody wearing them, and he was cracking up. It was pretty funny.
That...
Fun guy.
It's like what he's known for beyond the
Right.
fishing. It's just the haircut.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah, I find it hard to talk about anything but fishing, so I figure anybody that I'd want to hang out with on that list would have to want to talk fishing with me.
Rightfully so. I think I had it actually today's podcast I dropped with Derek Horner from Angler.
Yeah.
One of the most popular ones that he mentioned too was Teddy Roosevelt. So many people have said Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt. He's a big outdoorsman.
Exactly, which is probably, I'm assuming, why a lot of guys mention his name. So
and the one Calvin Coolidge was a president who was a big fisherman also. So
interesting. Did not know that. Okay, cool. So last question, plain and simple. It's what I like to wrap these things up with. Is just your favorite fishing memory.
Well, I would say there's a lot of them. One that stands out is me and one of my buddies, Ryan Lambert. We we had a tough first day of the tournament on at the Hobie BOS like 3 years ago. And this one I was just figuring out the ledge fishing stuff, and I was on some really good fish. I knew they were good, but I didn't really realize how good it was. And Lambert ended up coming out there with me on day 2, and we got out there on them and just crushed them all day long. And just it was so much fun. It was just one after the other. It was just 500, 600, just nonstop all day. And we're just doubling up, back to back. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast all day. So that was fun. That was a fun memory. I had a really good time that day. That always stands out.
I like it. Just pretty much putting the hammer down on them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this whole virus thing goes away, because I had plans to travel down with these guys and fish on, Pickwick and Chickamauga and stuff like that. So I'm hoping this all blows over. But
right. Well, as long as I mean, they had to push back the national championship on Gunnersville, which sucks. But at the same time, I found a really good spot when I was on Gunnersville last October, which is what they moved it to. So
blessing in disguise. Yeah. Nice.
That full type of guy.
There you go. That's a good way to be, especially in this current day. So.
All right.
Well, dude, I just want to say thank you for taking an hour out of your day to talk to me and hopping on the podcast, telling everybody about yourself, and just want to say I appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing how you do. As long as this virus allows it, hopefully you'll head off to Sweden, and hope to see you go whack 'em.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, you are welcome anytime, sir.
All right.
All right. You take care. Have a good night.
Stay safe.
So that was an awesome time talking to Eric, getting to know about how we got into fishing. Not only that, but how we got into kayak fishing and then tournaments, and then getting all the way up to the Hobie Worlds, which is a huge accomplishment. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, tournament angler in the kayak bass fishing scene, like I mentioned before. So it's awesome to pick his brain a little bit, learn about some of his interests and his experiences. I hope you guys can learn from that, whether you're a kayak angler or not. It was a pretty awesome episode. So, like I said, go down and in the description, follow him on YouTube, Instagram. You can follow him along on his travels, his adventures. If you guys aren't already, subscribe to the Ibrett Outdoors YouTube channel. You can also find Serious Angler Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Anchor app, the Angler app. Like I said, pretty much any podcast application, you will find us there. Thank you guys for watching and for listening, and we will see you next time.